For my social identity wheel, I picked Primo Levi, and Levi was an Italian Jew, and the reason behind why I picked his story in particular, other than the other protagonists we read about and learned about so far, is just because how inspiring his story was to me personally. Um, Levi's story and his journey really was powerful to read about. Um, and the reason behind that is not just how he was able to explain his experiences to the reader. He also emotionally connected to the reader. He did a good job at displaying his emotions and his thought process during the toughest time of his life, and also how he was able to mentally recover after the fact, which was very powerful to read about. Um, Levy was a chemistry major. He was a normal person. He was just trying to go to college and get a degree, like all of us. And then he was captured at 24 years old, and he was sent to Auschwitz, which was the biggest concentration camp at the time. Um, and reading about that, we've learned a lot about Auschwitz in particular and how bad the conditions were. Barely given enough to eat and drink on a daily basis, limited supply of everything, barely given enough to survive. So it was definitely saddening to read about that. But throughout the story, he talks about a lot about how his mental process was and how he was able to push through that. Because not only that, but he was separated from his family and loved ones, which was really sickening. I can only imagine how tough that must have been. Through the toughest time of your life, you don't even have anyone there with you to help you and support you. He was all on his own. But his story in particular showed his resiliency. It was very powerful to read about, and not only him, but it really showed just how powerful the Jewish community was at the time, and how they were all able to be resilient and push through one of the toughest times in history just to get what they deserved, and that being a dignified life. And for Levy, he was a very smart and strong individual. And that's the real reason why I picked him in particular, is just because reading about him and his story and learning about his life, it really showed how he was able to push through that time in history and how he was able to mentally recover after the fact. Super strong, really inspired me, and definitely one of the most interesting things I've learned about in this class so far.